Fears of broken promises and blatant betrayal are tonight fuelling calls for Australia to ditch our multi-billion-dollar nuclear sub-deal with the US. So are we in danger of being dudded by Donald?
It is a really bad deal. So people say, will Donald Trump like it? Well, of course he'd like it. It's such a bad deal for us.
Malcolm Turnbull today going nuclear on our nuclear submarines deal.
Back of his mind, he'll be thinking, who are these dumb guys that agreed to this deal?
The former PM joining a growing chorus of voices warning our $368 billion purchase of at least 8 American submarines under AUKUS is no guarantee the subs will be delivered.
The most likely outcome is that we will end up with no submarines of our own.
The problem? A caveat, which means receipt of the subs depends on the US being able to sustain its own Navy capabilities first, which it's not sure it can.
If we can produce the attack submarines in sufficient number and sufficient speed, then great. But if we can't, that becomes a very difficult problem.
And then there's the issue of whether Americans will want to honour the deal under Trump.
You're discussing AUKUS with the Prime Minister, sir.
What does that mean?
Today, a Labor Party grassroots campaign writing a letter to every candidate and MP calling for AUKUS to be dumped.
There's a growing concern about developments in the US under Trump. The US government cannot be relied upon to either deliver these submarines or come to Australia's assistance if something happened.
Trump's treatment towards allies in the tariff wars triggering concerns.
He's attacking allies and ripping up long-standing arrangements. We should get out of AUKUS.
What's your answer, Adam? I mean, we had a Chinese battleship, one of the best in the world, off the coast of Sydney, firing off missiles, live fire. And you were saying, we can just do this without the United States of America. So who are we going to do it with? You are totally and utterly dangerously naive.
The government, which in January made an $800 million down payment, and the opposition are vowing to stay the course.
It's a long-term agreement which will survive changes of government on both sides.
We want to see AUKUS succeed.
But as Trump rewrites the rule book, are we just some
Dumb guys
who need to jump ship?
Well, former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull is with us now. Malcolm, so you seem to think that we're never going to see these US submarines that we've been promised. Is that right?
Look, I think it's very unlikely, Waleed, really very unlikely. I mean, look, they're great submarines, there's no doubt about that. But the problem is that the deal that was done was a very, very bad deal for Australia. So we're paying the Americans $3 billion to support their submarine industry, but they do not have an obligation to transfer or sell any submarines to us unless their president at the time, which would be, say, around 2030, 2031, certifies that the transfer of the submarines would not degrade the undersea capability of the US Navy. Now, right now, they are short of submarines. They're producing about half as many as they should be producing. And by 2032, when we're meant to get the first one, they will be more than 20 submarines short of what they need. So it's very, very unlikely that the president of the day is going to say, no, we don't need those subs. We can sell them to the Aussies. So I think, regrettably, the shot of the great AUKUS submarine project is that we will end up with no submarines.
Is this about you being upset because you were the architect of the French deal and you'd rather this gets torn up and we go back to that?
No, I've just explained the situation. I mean, the legislation is very clear. We've taken that risk, and it is a massive risk. And you'd have to say, being objective about it, that it is very unlikely that we will get a Virginia-class submarine. Now, this has got nothing to do with Donald Trump. You could have a president who is the most pro-Australian there ever has been. There could be a whole row of, stuffed kangaroos and koalas on the mantelpiece. But at the end of the day, the legislation, the American legislation, requires him or her to ask does the US Navy need these subs? And you'd have to say today the answer would unquestionably be yes. And I don't think, and most people who are familiar with this don't think it will change between now and 2032. We're providing a submarine base in Perth for the Americans, and they'll have submarines there, and I suppose we will hope that their submarines will protect us. But we will not have any sovereign submarine capability of our own. It's a fiasco, I'm afraid. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just being objective about it.
If you were still Prime Minister, how would you feel about an ex-Prime Minister coming out and talking like this at such a delicate time?
Well,
I mean, obviously Peter Dutton would like you to shut up, and so would Albo, presumably.
Well, so would you, presumably, but you shouldn't have asked me to come on the program.
Not my choice, sadly.
You know, do we listen? We believe in free speech in Australia. Every Australian is entitled to free speech, even former prime ministers.
What would you do if you were PM again in this situation?
If I was in Albanese's position, the one solution may be that we just don't have any submarines. We have Australians serving on American submarines under an American flag. But, you know, that's a big loss to our sovereignty. But the first thing you've got to do is tell the truth. But what politicians are not doing, and with respect to Steve, who'd like me to say nothing, it's one thing to say former Prime Ministers shouldn't say anything. I'd like current Prime Ministers and wannabe Prime Ministers like Peter Dutton to be actually open, you know, being honest about this and saying, yes, there is a risk that we won't get these subs. It's contemplated in the legislation. It's contemplated by the parties. This is what my plan is. But we have heard a big silence on that score.
Are you missing the top job, Malcolm? Would you like to be PM again?
No, it was a great honour, and I had a lot of fun with it, fun in their job, and got a lot of good things done. But that's it. You can't do everything.
It's not impossible. Donald Trump did it, you know.
Yes, well, you know, and I'm only 70, you see, and he's 78. So there you go. So I've got anything could happen. But I think it's
good.
My parliamentary days are over. Although I tell you, I was in Canberra today, and I can go into Parliament now without the slightest touch of PTSD. So that's good.